Hello. A very warm welcome to Talking Couch, a flagship podcast channel of the Psycholingo. I'm your host, Psychologist Anam Ahmad, live from Hamburg, Germany, excited, happy, and filled with gratitude. Starting our third episode where we are again traveling back in history at the point where we left our discussion in the last episode when psychology was just about to take birth as a revolutionary force against all the ill practices and negative attitudes of people against mental disorders. In this episode, we are celebrating the birth of the psychoanalytic movement and how that brought good news to the development of psychology as a social science to study the mind's impact on behavior and also otherwise. Let's delve deeper into the hows and whys of our minds, trying to find out exactly where in history we started speculating about it in this special series on the history of mental disorders. So, now what are we waiting for? Let's begin and stay tuned. A different approach to mental disorders, mental health care started emerging after the 18th century, more specifically with a person called Jean-Martin Charcot, a French neurologist practicing at Salpêtrière Hospital in France. He worked on hypnosis as a methodology and specifically on a disorder which was common at that time called hysteria. There is a painting called A Clinical Lesson at the Salpêtrière Hospital which shows Charcot demonstrating or performing hypnosis on a woman most probably suffering from hysteria. Still, the emergence of talk therapy, psychotherapy, psychological counseling is not there, but hypnosis is used as a methodology to reach the inner minds of the patients, to know what are those hidden forces over which we have no control or we have no knowledge of, but they have such great influence in our waking life. So the actual situation was the doctors were struggling to understand the huge influx of incoming patients in the hospitals who showed physical symptoms, but there was no physiological or biological reason behind them, like a deficiency or a cell or a neuron to blame for a disability. When they didn't have a reason, so they didn't know how to cure it. Many adopted hypnosis as a method of investigation to help the patient speak out about what is causing them such deep troubles in their minds and bodies. After the hypnosis, patients often reported their symptoms getting better and also helped the doctors gain insight into the reasons to plan the treatment. That's how Charcot became famous with his sessions, which were also open to other doctors to attend, where he demonstrated hypnosis and how that led to deep revelations by patients about their sufferings. There has always been an important clinical case that changed the history of medicine, and for us, it is the case of a woman called Bertha Pappenheim, or often people call her by her clinical name Anna O. She lived in Frankfurt area in Germany back in those times, and to understand the underlying reasons for her suffering and for physical illness that she portrayed, we had to develop another practice which also became the stepping stone for the development of talk therapy and briefly took the help of hypnosis. Problems presented by Anna O were she was suffering hugely by language disorders. On some occasions, she would be observed speaking English, and back in those times in Germany, it was not common for people that they knew English at all, or briefly she would speak French or Italian, so she was multilinguistic, and that had no, significant, there is no significant proof that she knew these languages, and sometimes varied with the time of the day. She was struck with paralysis. Signs of paralysis would often be a problem for her. She was not able to move her limbs, and she was primarily paralyzed from one side of her body. Mood swings were often reported over long periods. She had daily mood swings between conditions of anxiety, swinging to depression, followed by relaxed states. Amnesia, when she was in one of those states, she could not even remember events which were important in her life from her past. She would fail to recognize her family and friends around. Eating disorders. In crisis, she refused to eat And during hot summers, it was often reported and observed by people around her that she even refused to drink water, and she was also diagnosed that she was having phobia of water. With so many confusing symptoms in one woman, she was a mystery to many doctors at that time. Josef Breuer, a physician doctor, started giving some home visits to her because she was from a very famous family, from a rich background, and she became a central curiosity to many doctors. So there was a very famous doctor, a physician at that time, who started paying home visits to her in order to treat her. Nothing at all would work well on her. The baths, exercises, medicines, prayers, some local method they were adopting at that time to treat such disorders. Nothing was bringing relief to her symptoms. Only when she sat alone with Breuer and he let her talk uninterrupted, she would start to feel uplifted and relieved. There is a very famous line which is, documented from her case study, and then she would, always pinpoint it to Breuer at that time, and she would say, please, I would just, start to feel better if you just let me talk. It is a famous line from her which was recorded. It was a breathtaking moment with hypnosis getting famous at Charcot's practice in France, and now a new method, talking cure cathartic methods, became the talk of the hour. Shedding light now on Sigmund Freud, father of modern psychology, born on 6th May 1856 to 23rd September 1939, he was an Austrian neurologist and a founder of Psychoanalysis, a clinical method for treating psychopathology seen as originating from conflicts of the psyche. Psychoanalysis as a method that uses dialogue and therapeutic relationship between patients and psychoanalytic became a prominent concept. Freud was a friend of Breuer. They were working together as a colleague, and he was a little more years senior to Sigmund Freud. So Breuer was treating Bertha Pappenheim, and they often discussed about this new concept of talk therapy, which started showing a relief to Bertha Pappenheim at that time, and Freud gained interest in this area. That was the time when he was also attending Jean-Martin Charcot's demonstration of hypnosis as a method to treat hysterical patients in France. So he gained a lot of interest in these practices because he was a neurologist. He was young. He was practicing in a hospital in Vienna at that time, and he was having sleepless nights observing his patients not getting better by all the regular or traditional way of treatment that they were giving to patients at that time in the hospitals. So he was innately interested in this talking cure therapy or to hypnosis, and he started gaining knowledge. He started speaking to Breuer about his more experience on treating Bertha Pappenheim, and also attending sessions of hypnosis by Charcot in France. Once he had set up a private practice in Vienna in 1886, Freud began using hypnosis in his clinical work. That is the time he adopted the approach of his friend and collaborator Josef Breuer, and he started seeing his patients at his home. Apart from hypnosis, some of the highlights of his prominent approach were: effective symptom relief could be achieved by encouraging patients to talk freely without censorship or inhibition about whatever ideas or memories occurred to them. He called this procedure as free association. So he started with just building a therapeutic relationship with the client, with the patient who was suffering innately with the physical symptoms of paralysis, vomiting, pains, there are migraines, there is a fever which is not coming down. So these patients were allowed in his private practice. To them, he started simple by free association, that you come in the space, you be yourself, you sit down comfortably, I'm here with you, and you are allowed to freely associate with me. Repressed materials from the unconscious were analyzed, and patients felt freedom after venting them out to the therapist, that is Freud. In conjunction with this, Freud found that patients' dreams could also be fruitfully analyzed to reveal the complex structures of unconscious material and to demonstrate the psychic action of repression, which he had concluded underlay symptom formation. So now when the patient started revealing how are they feeling, what is happening in their waking life, what is it that has bothered them just in the past, how do they look at their life altogether, then they would talk about certain anxiety they have because of these recurrent dream states. They are not able to overcome these nightmares that they get. So Freud just kept silent. He started just noticing all the non-verbal and verbal cues which the patients were giving it out to him. So this description made him write a portrait of the patient. In 1896, he was using the term psychoanalysis to refer to his new clinical method and the theories on which it was based. The scientific community saw a huge topic of discussion because they were still not accepting this as a method of treatment because of a lack of objectivity, standardization, less scientific, hard to prove, how we can study the mind, how we can simply take help of a talking cure and treat these very serious disordered state. And I mean, we are not sure that how are you going to even build this as a scientific methodology and make it more standardized and help other doctors understand it and not treat them by any medicine and just talk openly to the patient. Can this be so simple in treating disordered states after which we have there are years we are spending to understand these patients? To which Freud always replied with recorded case studies, successful stories of clients' recovery, that it is everything that lies in this therapeutic relationship we form with clients that has a safe space, open space, beautiful and secure, where two people are involved. In this space, there is peace, there is stability. To which he said that this relationship that we share with clients and it is such a special one. It is deep, it is empathetic, it is soft, and it is comfortable. That this itself becomes a therapy. It itself becomes a heal on the wound. It is a non-judgmental space. There is actual deep care and listening. All your needs are, whether they are said or unsaid, they are being observed and they are being attended. This itself acts as a healing tone to the patient and his suffering. This helps the client to open up, talk uninterrupted about past happenings, what they are going through in the present, how they, have assumptions about their future. Let it all flow out barrier-free. The dreams are being analyzed, very central, to clients. The dreams that they have been reporting to Sigmund Freud, they have been central in the interpretation of maybe there is something in their present life which they are not processing because they have no help, no expertise, how to process these emotions and experiences they are going through. So they are being manifested in the dream state. Client's behavior is also analyzed towards therapist on being asked to talk about certain touchy topics that helps the client to gain more insight. So maybe Freud is asking to elaborate more about the family dynamics, or how you feel about your father or your mother, or were your early childhood days that positive? How do you feel as a small kid in that house? So maybe there is some interruption from the patient. There is some resistance and hesitation, to which also Freud takes a note. Freud takes a note here and says that these awkward silences, these interrupts, these resistances, these negative emotions, or there is a effort to put a stop that, I'm not comfortable in speaking more about it, or I have nothing to share about it. So these inputs, whether small or big, whether non-verbal or verbal, they were all taken into account, and they were essential in establishing a psychological picture for this person, that these are the internal mental states that you have, and these could be a cause of something more serious, deeply rooted in your mental levels. Everything about you became important in talk therapy. That was Freud's stand at that time. This 1 hour space, once in a week or twice in a week, Freud started providing to severe patients who were treated for physical symptoms at hospitals. The patients started showing improvements because they felt free. The stress came down. They felt new motivation, and that energized them to get up and build a new life. Slowly and steadily, they found the power to elevate all the symptoms away from their body. This left many doctors actually surprised, and whole scientific community started criticizing Freud very heavily because, of course, that was, also closing their doors. I mean, nobody was very impromptu going to the doctors for seeking help. Now they were also hunting for Freud, who was the new doctor in town, by not giving you medicines or, treating you with painful, treatment plans. I had, discussed in the previous episode that they were being put to shock therapy. They were given medications which were also, not good for health, and they were given baths. The patient was put to torture, as we had already, talked about this in the previous episode. So now there is a new doctor in the town. He's Sigmund Freud. He's only treating you by talking, only treating you by providing that safe space where you just let yourself loose with your thoughts, with your words, and you are coming out of the practice as a new person. That started gaining more popularity, and people started approaching Freud, to which many scientific community they were not very positive with this idea. They called it fake. They called it non-scientific. But it is the milestone achieved. It is the start of that revolution. Psychology as a discipline is that was born to understand our complex minds, mental disorders, mental conflicts, mental energies, and how that was impacting our biology and behavior. Psychoanalysis, there is an analysis of all the psychological material you are, oozing out, was indeed a revolution. Thanks to that, we have been blessed today with many schools which are coming out of psychoanalysis, thanks to Freud and his observation and his breathtaking discovery of talk cure. So, important takeaways from this episode is, when we enter this warm space with a deep listener who's your therapist, who shows empathy and is still like water, we develop trust with this person, which has the power of healing. We start to talk about things even out of our unconsciousness. That has the power to clear all the levels of our mind, help us build clarity and insight on our inner world, so that we make bigger changes and decisions in our outer world. Once in a lifetime, attending therapy is inevitable, is important to help us feel baggage free from our internal mental conflicts that we have or might have developed due to life experiences, due to different situations we have gone through in life, good or bad. We need to process it together. So that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful journey, holding your attention till the end. Remember to take care of yourself and each other around. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, share this powerful message with your dear ones around. Follow us on our social media for new updates. Check out our website today for booking a therapy session with me, start your mental health journey with me, or visit great courses made on psychology. Until next time, this is your psychologist Anam Ahmad signing off for now. Ciao, auf Wiedersehen.